Bev. As a non-fiction book coach and book production manager with more than 15 years experience, Bev increasingly specialises in short read, long impact books that provide clear information and actionable content instead of overwhelming the reader. Thank you. Bev coaches mostly business owners as they plan and write books that will benefit their business. She also manages a team of skilled freelance editors and designers to ensure they deliver top quality books for her clients. And this morning she's going to share a little bit more about her story from solo to crew. Very interesting. Please welcome Bev Ryan.
So yes, I'm not talking about books at all today. So it'll be really good. Yeah. I know there's a lot of very skilled people in the room that do similar things. So actually, I was just saying to Pat, our themes today are kind of very, very synchronistic, which is wonderful. I'm going to go back to the past, and I did struggle with, well, why does anyone want to hear my backstory from 2006? So I thought, well, I'll just extract out of that what I learned at the time. And at the time, I was right in the midst of an amazing period known as postmenopausal zest, PMZ. Can anybody relate to that? Postmenopause, I got my life back, yes, you can do anything. It's wonderful, you'll get there. And when you do, just embrace it, because it could be the best time of your life. So I was in the midst of PMZ and wanted to start a magazine. I had already done a bit of publishing, so I thought I want to get back into that because it was the thing I loved the most. And so I decided to launch a magazine called Honestly Woman. So I was in my 50s, I wanted a magazine for people, for women like myself. No fashion, no diets, no celebrity, interesting stories, real people. So that was kind of my premise. At the time, I was going through the NICE program, which I don't know, you may know, it's a business program. You get assigned a business mentor. And this was sort of like 2005 when I was doing the work to launch in 2006. My lovely business mentor, Tom Budgeon, was a man of ideas, full of energy, great with ideas that other people could go and do. He loved boating. So he suggested one day, why don't you do something where your magazine gets a lot of attention? And to do that, why don't you get some women together and do something that men normally do, so that you'll get a bit of publicity, blah, blah, blah. Then he said, why don't you get some women together and sail in the Brisbane to Gladstone yacht race? And this is like, my mind just went, I have no idea, none of that. I knew nothing about any of those words that he used. So my first response obviously is, I cannot do that. I have no idea what to do. And I went home and I just started to listen to myself, because I'd been through a fairly intense period of, a really positive period of just changing my thoughts about things and recognising the negative, the way I'd held myself back in many times in my career. And then I just kind of had this idea, well, if I say no to this, it's like my life's going to be this ever decreasing circle if you start saying no to things. So I thought, well, I've got to say yes and figure this thing out. And Pat could relate to all of this, I'm sure. So I went back to him and I said, okay, I'm terrified, I've got no idea how to do it, but let's say yes. Interestingly, I had been to some kind of business event where I picked up a flyer for a group called Women on Boats. So I had this flyer actually sitting at my desk at home, Women on Boats. And Tom had recently met the relationship manager at Redcliffe, which is a wonderful charity that raises money for families whose children are going through cancer. So he met Thea, who was the relationship manager in Queensland. I had this flyer on my desk. So he said, well, do you know that the power sail on sailing boats is called a kite? You do know that, don't you? What about we talk to Red Kites? What about you do something and Red Kites involved and blah, blah, blah. So my next step, once I kind of again fought with the demons, right, I'll email Di Halden, who was the lady with the Women on Boats new business. I emailed Di, Tom emailed Thea. They both thought it was a great idea, so we got together for coffee for us. So that's how it all started. So at this point, my magazine was about to launch. So that was my first issue. Oh, yeah, look, I didn't even realise that till right this minute. Red kite on the back. That was my first issue. So in that issue, I said, it's on the front, Red Kite Challenge. This, this is way down the track. This started 2006. We decided we'd enter 2007 race. My thought when I put this in print was, what if it fails? I'm going public with this big stupid idea and I don't know how to do it. What if it fails? But I think part of that PMZ thing, that aging thing, is that you get to a point where you say, well, if it fails, who cares? Honestly, I will have tried, I will have talked about it. A red kite would get some publicity out of it, whether or not we went ahead. So I got over that hurdle as well. Like, you just try things. They may not work out, but you've got to try. So then the next part of that was, obviously we needed a boat. At that point we didn't have a boat. We didn't know whether we were going to get a little boat with 4 people on it, who knows. Di, who was the woman on boats person, obviously knew a lot more about boats than me. She knew about South Passage, which is a beautiful big replica schooner. Do any of you know South Passage? Have you been on it? It's amazing. Oh, if you get nothing else from today, look up South Passage. Go for a sail on South Passage. It's amazing. It's a 35-foot. It must be bigger than that. It's big. I've got 100 meters. No, anyway, whatever. It's big. It's called a gaff rig schooner. So it's a replica big old sailing boat. I think it's actually got a steel hull. It would have been timber originally, the older boats. South Passage, its home base is down at Manly. They do a lot of work with school kids. They'll take groups of school kids out for a week and a sailing trip and turn lives around in lots of ways. Di had a connection there. It turned out that South Passage sails pretty much every year in the Brisbane to Gladstone yacht race, but people pay to go on the boat. Qantas had used it for years, I think, in the Brisbane. They rented it. That was the Qantas sailing thing at Easter. Turns out in 2007, Qantas did not want to hire it, so we looked at hiring it. It cost, I can't remember the actual figure, it cost maybe, $12,000-$13,000 to hire it for the race. It actually sleeps 30 people downstairs, kind of on little funny little berths downstairs. So it's big enough big enough boat to house 30 people. So they provide 7 trained crew. Obviously you can't sail in a major race without trained people. So they provide the trained crew that allows the boat to enter the race. So we had 23 spaces for women like me who knew nothing about sailing. And that was the point. That was the point of the whole thing. It was for me it was all about adventure, and I think for most of the women on the boat it was similar, that this is an amazing opportunity, could never do it any other way, don't know what we're doing, but let's trust Bev and Di. Yeah, I trusted Di, thank God. Anyway, it all came together. Now, I don't want to leave out any critical parts of this story. So we needed 23 people. Now, I came along with my limited set of skills, which basically was, I've got a magazine, I can promote what we're doing, I could write press releases that got promotion, publicity for us. I could tell stories within the magazine. It was every quarter that it came out. I had no idea of the rest, and it just, like you were saying before, synchronicity. Di Halden knows, now called Di Edwards, and I think she actually lives locally now. She knew all about sponsorships and sales, and she's just gung-ho, full of energy, and just, Di says it's going to happen, it's going to happen. So, I needed that because I was the, I don't know if this could happen. So this Di. Then along came Judy. Judy Mitchell had financial skills. She was a CFO somewhere, so she kind of looked after the financials of all this crazy idea. Then came Jackie Richards. Jackie was a compliance person, QA person. Jackie was the person in the meetings that would say, you can't do that. It's like, are you sure you can do that? You need to check that out. Because we set up a not-for-profit group, so then the money could go to Red Kite. Obviously the first amount of money we raised had to go to cover the boat. So the 23 women were all responsible for raising X number of dollars. It was just over $1,000 each, I think. that we had to raise, which meant there was money for Red Kite out of that. So some individuals funded themselves, but not everybody. Most of us we personally got sponsors to help pay our way. Then those sponsors got publicity out of the magazine and any other way that we could do it. Came to the race, Easter 2007, so it took us about 12 months to get all this sorted. We went out on a couple of training trips on the boat. We'd never done an extended training period. Might have gone out for a few hours to be taught the ropes and things. Not that I remember any knots or ropes, but we had people telling us what to do, which is fortunate. The race in 2007, it starts at midday, it starts at 11 a.m. on Easter Friday from Shorncliffe. I went to Shorncliffe, first time I'd ever been to Shorncliffe. I lived at the western suburbs at that time. It was interesting, caught the train to Shorncliffe, where are we? We had no idea. Now Shorncliffe is like, it's beautiful. So we all set off at 11 a.m. We had a great sail in that there was always wind, but as we got towards the sunset of that Friday, the storms came up out at sea. So we basically sailed all night on that Thursday night through really rough weather. There was thunder, lightning, rain, huge winds, huge waves. That boat is big and heavy and goes fast. But the only sound out there is the wind and the sails. It was just an experience that I would probably never have again. You can't describe it. I could not describe it to you. It was incredible. Occasionally the moonlight would come through the clouds and there were occasionally dolphins sort of coming down beside the boat. It was very ethereal, if that's the right word. Really some scary moments when we were tasked with, we're in 3 ships, so 23 of us were in 3 groups. We had 4-hour shifts when we were manning the boat, womaning the boat. We would use the helm, but we always had someone beside us. But when we weren't on our shift, we were either sleeping or eating. So in those 4 hours, occasionally it got a bit treacherous at times. The boat would flip. One of the women that was steering at the time she's quite petite, and I think she did let go of the handle once the handle. That big. the wheel at one stage. And the boat seriously tipped, and the edge of the sail almost touched the water. But then it came back again, so everyone downstairs kind of fell out of the beds. It was scary. At one stage, I think it might have been her, she went sideways across the boat. We were tethered at night. It was hairy. Anyway. So that was the cover shot I used after the race. Obviously, that's Dee Reeves. Some of you may have met Dee Reeves. Dee continued to sail on. Anyway, for that. So we got to what we'd had to do to enter the race, because we're not at speed, but we weren't competing with those super yachts. There's another division called the tactical division where you have to, before the race, you have to enter. You have to submit your entry in the tactical division where you've plotted out your course and estimated what time you'll be at certain spots, and you estimate when you'll arrive. So you've got no idea when you get to the other end. We did arrive fairly close to what we estimated. We arrived at midnight on Saturday to Gladstone. The next day is the awards program where they tell you who's won, blah, blah, blah. Came to the tactical division and we'd actually won. So if you can imagine 23 women, all in red shirts, we were wearing red shirts, 23 women being told they just won the Brisbane Gladstone Yacht Race. It sort of went off a bit. A lot of men in the room was like, whoa. We were in their space, very, very much so. So after that, look, the point of all this story today is to kind of tell you what I learned from that experience, apart from winning the yacht race. I guess one of the things that came out of it was the working in teams. That we were a team of 23, but I'm not sure whose idea this was, but because we had to work in 3 shifts, we were 3 groups, sort of what evolved, it wasn't me, it wasn't my group, we were kind of the anti-group, was the other groups got these little, not war songs, sort of little group songs, and they get together and do a little song, And our group, we just weren't those kind of people. And so, but it sort of felt at times it pitted us against each other, which when you're in a crisis, or what felt like a crisis, in a storm, and you need all hands on deck, and people just sit back and watch you because it's not their turn to be there, it got a bit stressful at times. Not many times, but I must admit I did snap at somebody who snapped back at me because I was struggling with the helm at the time. So it's interesting what Pat said about the 4 agreements. I think we probably should have had something like that at the start. But you learn these things, that's the whole point of doing them. So the outcome of all that is we raised enough money. I think that year we just gave about $5,000 to Red Kite, but I'd done it once. If I do something once, that's enough. Di, who's loved water anyway, loves sailing, she continued with we call the group Women Race for Red Kite, minor detail. So she continued with Women Race for Red Kite for at least 5 or 6 more years. And each Easter they would they'd rent South Passage and do the same. So each year I think they raised more money for Red Kite. So in total they would have raised tens of thousands, many tens of thousands for Red Kite. And one year Channel 7, Kay McGrath from Channel 7, she sailed one year and she did coverage from the boat. So it got a really wide appeal. A lot of women experienced that in some shape or form. Thank you. So what else did I learn? I think probably one of the key things that I came away from, and as I was preparing for today, thinking how most of us, and it was not me at the time, we work in isolation, and this is, I think, the beauty of coming here is that we tap into people, like interesting people on these tables doing amazing things. I really feel like there's a space in business to either collaborate for your business, but maybe just collaborate for something big and adventurous. Because when I started my magazine, that was one of the decisions I made is, I want to do my magazine, I want it to be a successful business, but I want my magazine to bring me adventure and bring me amazing people. And the Women Race for Red Kite did exactly that. And I wrote these things down. I only did 20, so I'm not sure if...
Oh, we've got quite a few.
Yeah, that's right. Some of you won't be interested, some of you, I'll mention it in a minute, so, and I can email it to people later.
Could we maybe just put one on each table? Can we take them back and just...
I'll talk about
You
it.
can upload it to
Have a
Ocean
share.
Network Facebook page.
Sure, just so people can...
And I think what also I learned is I've got a book at home called Write It Down, Make It Happen. It's one of the best books ever. And that is so true. You have your dreams, you write them down in whatever shape or form that means to you, but things happen. It's sort of like you lose control, they just happen. It's pretty amazing, So I've got a worksheet there for you. I just wanted to plant a seed for you to think about, well, what big crazy idea, adventure could I possibly do? Not on my own, but with other people. I think when you realise what your own personal contribution would be to that group and who else you might need or what sort of skills you might need to make something happen, then things can really happen. And I just wanted to mention 2007, Easter, South Passage, it is people in the room. You could do something like that. You could get together and you've got access to, I could find Di, she'd be a great mentor if someone wanted to do it. So that worksheet there is really just to use to sort of generate some ideas. You might think about it as you finish this breakfast. If you'd like me to email you a copy of the worksheet, my email's it's on the top of the thing there, but if you like a digital copy, so you can expand it and do whatever with it, you're very welcome. So I'm so glad I've had this chance to tell that little part of my life story. I hope it's meaningful for you. Thank you.